Every 2 years, there's a critical window to go to Mars. NASA is sending its 9th spacecraft to the red planet's surface, and other nations are trying to go too. One is China, which is launching its first solo expedition. The US and China are contenders for science, profit, and pride beyond the stratosphere, and China has made a lot of progress. Since 2018, it has sent more rockets than any other country, and has become the second biggest spender in space programs behind the US. Namrata Gwasami analyzes space programs in China and the US. She says China's space program's greatest advantage is that once the single-party government sets a long-term goal, plans are unlikely to change. For instance, China is scheduled to set up mankind's first permanent lunar base in 2036. Meanwhile, NASA, Congress, and the wider space community have debated for decades whether to refocus on the moon. While the debate continues in the US, China is breaking new ground. It landed a robotic explorer on the moon's far side last year, something no other country has ever done before.
The first step is the moon. China wants to make this step very solid and to build our ability and to get a good technology, and then we can go further.
Long Shao says China's Chang'e 5 probe launch later this year could return lunar samples to Earth and help advance research into turning them into rocket fuel.
The first woman and the next man on the moon will both be American astronauts, launched by American rockets from American soil.
But the one advantage the US may have is a number of collaborations between NASA and private space companies led by high-profile billionaires. The space agency has signed billion-dollar partnerships to do things like sending NASA astronauts and space tourists into orbit. Space experts say the pooling of money and brains from various companies and universities is what makes the US program so special. As of today, the US remains a model for China, which is actually learning from NASA's legacy in space. Still, in recent years, China has surpassed the West in areas like 5G and quantum encryption, technology that experts say could accelerate China's space progress. This summer, Tianwen-1 will demonstrate technology that NASA is also rolling out for the first time, a radar mounted on top of the rover to detect subsurface water. But there's one big difference. While NASA is partnering with the European Space Agency to bring back the Martian soil and rock samples to Earth in 2026, China is doing it solo, and it's not necessarily a choice. NASA has never worked with China because of national security concerns. The US barred Chinese astronauts from entering the International Space Station and excluded China from being part of the Gateway, a moon-orbiting space station.
It's not a good thing about the tension between China and the United States, but I understand that to share the technology is hard for any country.
So instead, China has planned its own Mars sample return mission in 2028, not far from the NASA and ESA timeline.
The US does not seem to realize that because it banned any kind of space collaboration between the US and China developed its own indigenous capacity. So they turned a disadvantage into an advantage.
In the long term, some scientists from both the US and China have said they hope cooperation will help share costs and expertise.
For science, we hope we can share scientific resource, exploration data, and to allow scientists to work together